The following program is an opinion program. The opinions expressed by the hosts and guests of this program are not the opinions of the management, staff, and advertisers of this station. Please direct all criticism, concern, and adulation to the hosts of this program.
Welcome to Alabama Politics This Week. I am Dale Jackson. I'm a radio talk show host. You can hear my shows Monday through Friday from 5 till 9 a.m. on WVNN in Huntsville. And then also another hour, the fastest hour of radio anywhere on your radio dial, from 10 until 11 on Talk 99.5 in Birmingham, on News Radio 1440 in Montgomery, and then at 3 o'clock on the UMP. Every single day, Monday through Friday. With me, as always, Mecca Music. She is the CEO of 256today.com. Smart news for smart people. Smart enough to know that we shouldn't talk about the debate before it happens. Because I'll say things like, can you imagine how crazy that guy was and that thing he did? It was wild. I can't believe it happened, but it did. So we're not going to do that because the debate happens just a little bit. We'll come back and we'll talk about it maybe next week. But right now, we got Christopher Reed joining us in just a second. I've got a parting shot for you, but we got to get to the 2-minute warning. So let's go ahead and get started right now. See, I think I tricked a lot of you with the Trump wins chyron there because the only thing he's winning is polls and predictors. And I'll tell you, a lot of people tell me all the time, oh, the polls were wrong in 2016. The polls were wrong, but they weren't. Go look. It said that Hillary Clinton would win by 2 points, and she did. She won the popular vote by about 2 points. That's why these polls now, they're showing Donald Trump up 4, including the Quinnipiac poll that Biden was leading it up until this point, are so important. If they're statistically tied nationally, Trump's going to win. If Trump's up, it's going to be a blowout. And so I'm not saying that's where we're at, but if you look at these polls, honestly, that's what you're looking at. Nate Silver, his history of predicting and all these other things, people can criticize some of it if you want, but he's been pretty good at it over the last couple of years. And he says this thing isn't even a toss-up anymore. He's saying that Trump is going to win this thing walking away. Now, there is a lot of time between now and then, including a debate shortly after we filmed this. That's happening, and it was crazy. But we will talk about that again. Mecca, at this particular point in time, is this where they get Trump? When they let him be up 4 points and all the predictors say it's not even a toss-up? Is this where they get him?
I mean, and what's interesting to me about what you talked about that is if it's a tie. And I want you to talk about that a little bit more.
Sure.
Why is it like that? Why is it if it's a tie, that means a Trump win?
Okay, because a lot of times you got to look at these big states where there's blowouts, New York, California,
Which
stuff like
will
that.
be.
Right, but they will be blowouts in favor of Biden. So that kind of skews it. Then you have states that are much smaller than those, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan. If those states are closer, you would think that if the national polls show that Trump's winning, he'll be doing okay in those states. That's basically the theory there. But his lead will be much smaller, so it will the raw numbers will be much smaller.
Right.
So it'll skew the national polls. We do not elect via popular vote. President Al Gore and President Hillary Clinton will tell you that.
Yeah.
We have to look at all these other things. But everything is coming up his way right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also there was the fundraising aspect.
The fundraising has
month.
huge money all the way around.
Like $60 million or something.
This is not where they get him.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot about your question. No, absolutely not. This is not it.
Unless the plan is to lull him into like some sense of being ahead, and then he does something.
Which don't you think these numbers, Biden falling behind or tied, as we just talked about, led to this debate even happening? Because something's going to happen. If it keeps going like this, obviously it's a Trump win.
If you listen to Trump sell it, this debate that's already happened, which was crazy, if you listen to him sell it, he's like, well, they didn't think I'd do it, so they made up a ridiculous scenario, go against Jake Tapper and Dana Bash and CNN and all these other things. And I just said yes without even knowing the terms. And he's like, I got him. And I'm like, did you? But they didn't think he'd do it, so they could say he won't even debate us.
Right.
Now had the debate. There we go. So we'll have to see what happens there. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Alabama Democrats for a second. And I love this story. This is my favorite story of the week. I would have put it first if this other thing had not happened. It was crazy at that debate. I mean, if this other stuff would not have happened. But Alabama Democrats are very upset with the national Democrats. And I think this is interesting. Over the last couple of years, we've heard guys like Doug Jones and Terry Sewell and all these other people talk about the racist specter of voter disenfranchisement and all these other things. And there were all these problems. And now it looks like they finally tracked down person actually doing racist things, systematically racist things to Alabama Democrats? It's Joe Biden. I mean, it's Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. If you listen to the head of the Alabama Democratic Party, Randy Kelly, at his press conference, he did the whole Jesse Jackson thing where he rhymed a bunch of wrongs and he put them together and he made the argument that this was disenfranchisement and all these other things. And I thought it was very interesting to see this, because I think Joe Biden's leading this, because in the past Joe Biden was obviously racist. He just forgot that he was supposed to be racist.
Okay.
With his dementia.
I understand what you're saying because we've talked about this,
Yeah.
but I don't think you explained it very well.
Oh, I
so
explained it
basically,
perfectly.
you did not.
Yes.
So basically, there is a divide, and this has been going on for years.
Yes.
This is nothing new between the National Democratic Party, the DNC, and the Alabama State Democratic Party. Okay, there is a huge divide, and it came out in the headlines again this week, where the state Alabama Democratic Party
Have their delegates.
accused the DNC of discrimination. Now, what's interesting is Alabama's top-ranking Democrat said no, the DNC is correct.
She
These
wanted
are
nothing
not
to do with this. She wanted nothing to do
Yeah.
with this fight, because you know what she knows?
because it's
She knows what we know. Alabama Democrats are irrelevant. And I mean, they just generally are. That's what she knows. She doesn't have to deal with them.
She's not saying that.
But that's the gist of what she's saying.
I don't know.
I don't.
I don't agree
It
with
is.
that
Just think about it. She does not have to deal with them to maintain power. She just pushed them off to the side. She's in a district that's gerrymandered for her. All she has to do is continue keeping on, and it makes no sense for her to get involved in some stupid stuff going on at the party level. When Tabitha Eisner is your number 2 person and Randy Kelly's your number 1 person, people none of you know, these people are completely unqualified to run a Dairy Queen, and they are in charge of the Alabama Democratic Party, and they are driving it into the ground. If it was a Dairy Queen, it would be shut down because there'd be rats all over it.
Okay, well, we ran out of time, but I also want to talk about what the main issue is, like what the definition of diversity is and things like that. But perhaps we'll get to it another time.
Yeah, well, nobody will talk about Alabama Democrats, so they don't matter. All right, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about school choice. This is even better than expected. And for those of us who push for school choice, this is exactly what you should want to happen. And we heard a lot of the horror stories about, well, what are they going to do? Are kids from Huntsville going to go to Madison City schools? That would be scary. And they talked about that as one of the fears. And now in Lee County is looking at their surrounding areas and goes, no, come here. Come here and pay what the state is going to give you to send your kid to a private school or to their own school, and you can give it to us, and we'll educate your children. There are school systems in this state, believe it or not, that have overbuilt, that have more classrooms than students, and who have a product that they believe is better than the product of the surrounding school systems, and they think they can sell it for money. And then they'll go ahead and they'll pay them in order to do so. Here's what I find interesting about this, Mecca.
Wait, can I interject something real quick? And not to be overly critical yet again, but we're talking about public schools receiving
Lee
money.
County schools.
That wasn't clear.
Lee County public schools. Yeah.
Receiving money
Okay, yeah.
due to school choice.
Lee Public School,
Go ahead.
County Public Schools want to allow students from other public school districts
Thank
to
you.
come into their thing. Okay. But what's funny is there are some cross-district stuff already happening.
Yes,
Hartselle,
and it has
Coleman,
always
all these things,
happened.
but they're charging $1,500
Exactly,
right now.
the numbers.
Now $7,000.
Exactly. So this has happened a lot, like you said, in the past. I mean, even in Limestone
It's
County.
inflation.
If you had Huntsville, I don't think 1,000 to 7,000 is quite inflation. I think 7,000 is the amount of money that you get reimbursed.
No, yeah, I know that. I mean, it's artificial inflation, but it is.
Yeah.
Like, oh, now it's $7,000. I think you'll see a lot of this, and I don't have absolutely any problem, because in this scenario, the money is actually following the kids.
Right, and that's what you...
Right, and I think it's fine. And by the way, some money still follows those kids when they cross districts at this point, but now that money will go directly to the parents, and the school system goes, we'll take all that.
Exactly.
And you know what? Fine. I don't have any problem.
Do you think this was an unintended consequence, though?
I don't think they thought about it fully like this, that schools would do this and say we want a piece of this, but still, more competition is better, and that's exactly what this is. So unintended or not, big thumbs up for this kind of school choice. I'm a big fan of this. Here's something I'm not a fan of. Free speech. No, I'm a fan of free speech, but I'm not a fan of what the Supreme Court did this week. And this is, an actual incident where free speech is under attack. Okay? Here's what the ruling the Supreme Court said. They said, hey, the federal government can, in fact, go to social media companies and say, hey, why don't you delete this and that, election this, COVID that, all these other things. And you can do that. We don't necessarily like it, but you're the wrong person to sue about it. By saying the states aren't really the people who should sue about it. Instead, you got to find one of these people who was screwed over by this. They've got to sue, and we got to come back and deal with this again. They could have decided to rule on this, and they chose not to. But what it does is it opens up the door, and pay attention here, folks, for the Biden administration to come in and say, Facebook, we don't like this post. Like, I don't know, let's just pick something out there. Let's say Hunter Biden had like a laptop issue or something. And they said, take this down. And if you read some of the documents, you can see that Twitter and Facebook are like, why are they asking us this? Should we do this? We shouldn't do this. Should we be doing this? We're not. Well, it's the federal government. Let's go ahead and do it. And that's exactly what happened here. And you have this huge issue develop, and now it can happen again leading up to this election. Now you may say to yourself, well, I trust the Biden administration. That's fine. They can do it. Let me say something that might scare you. The Trump administration. Yes. What if the Trump administration gets in power and starts doing the exact same thing? Are you fine with that? You just might want to think about it that way. Mecca, this is free speech actually under attack.
Okay.
You always talk about democracy is under attack. This is actually an instance where it is.
No, and I understand what you're saying, and I think a lot of the justices agreed with you, but there were parameters of this case where, okay, it needs to be brought by this.
They step outside of those bounds all the time.
I'm not saying they don't,
I mean,
but that is a legitimate leg to stand on going forward.
This was a choice by those justices to play this by the book. It's almost like a lot of them said, we don't like this, it's wrong, but we're going to continue to allow it to happen.
I don't think that's the exact interpretation.
We could have stopped this, but we're not going to. Show me some other reason why I should stop it. And I think
it's not show me some other reason. It's, like, okay, you don't. I mean, this happens all the time in all sorts of different cases.
I agree with
like,
that.
I mean,
But
the Supreme Court
they have
shouldn't
latitude.
be any different.
They have some latitude. They chose not to use it. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not going to second guess.
It sounded like you were saying they were wrong.
I don't agree with it because it sounds also to me like they know that it's in the overarching scope of this. They know this shouldn't be happening. Like if the right person brought it, they would excoriate the Biden administration. And by the way, the Trump people did this too. So again, I'm not trying to say that this was only them, but they would excoriate them for doing this. And then they're just saying, well, it's the wrong person, so we're gonna kick it back to the district and say better luck next time.
I understand your disappointment with it, but I also understand they're like, okay, well, it has to be brought within this framework.
If your argument is I should not be mad at the Supreme Court, I guess you're right. But I'm more mad about the people actually doing it than they shouldn't be doing it. I think that's the point here out of all of this, that nobody should be doing this. And Facebook and Twitter, by the way, just side point, they want this. They want this, and I'll tell you why they want this. They don't want to be responsible for this. They want to say, okay, take it down, sure, we'll do that. And then when somebody else will be like, wasn't us, it was those guys. They made us do it. And that's corporations love when the government tells them to do stuff because then they don't have to make the decision. Trust me, I work for one. All right, stay tuned, folks. We got a lot to talk about. Christopher Reed will be with us next. Stay tuned.
You work hard to earn little escapes because doing your best means being your best. So let us help you discover your best at Premier Dental Spa. With our unique blend of cosmetic, dental, and spa-like aesthetic services, you'll leave feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. Make sure the best you is here to stay and book your appointment online today at premierdentalspa.com.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for University Kia, and this is my son Grant. He's a busy guy. Chess, piano, basketball, wrestling, baseball, you name it. There's probably some stuff that I missed that my wife will be mad about, but here's the thing. It's important to have reliable transportation. And my friends at University Kia, they take great care of me. I've been driving Sportages my entire life. My wife drives a Telluride now, and it is the perfect vehicle for the busy family. Folks, University Kia, let them take care of you like they've taken care of my family. That's University Kia. Learn more at universitykia.com.
Tom, Grant and Dale Jackson sent you.
Want fun, safe, intelligent fitness programming? Want to build muscular strength, cardiovascular endurance, drastically improve range of motion and mobility, and learn proper nutrition to fuel your life with energy and emotional health? Well, come find out why Iron Tribe Fitness is ranked one of the top 5 fitness programs in America. Come find out why personal training and intentionally working on your current movement patterns individually is not only important, it's just another core value that separates Iron Tribe Fitness from other fitness facilities.
To learn how to get your 2-week free pass, go to irontribefitness.com.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Well, welcome back to Alabama Politics. This week, I'm Dale Jackson. With me, as always, Mecca Music. I'm still stunned by the debate where that guy did the thing. It was crazy. It was crazy, but we'll talk about that a little bit next week. On with us right now, Christopher Reed. He is a talk show host on The Ump in Huntsville. He comes on my radio program a lot, and you can see him on a bunch of different places. We appreciate him being here. He's a lawyer by trade, or at least used to be before he was a talk show host. So I want to start where we left off in the last segment. Talking about this case of free speech. Maybe I didn't explain it very clearly because, I'm stupid. So we were having a conversation about free speech and the decision the Supreme Court made. And it didn't necessarily say what the Biden administration was doing was right when it came to forcing tech companies to stop COVID, quote, misinformation, and election, quote, disinformation, and other things that were inconvenient to the current administration. But they argued that the standing was wrong. Christopher, could they have just made the ruling and said, look, maybe this isn't the perfect client, like this isn't the perfect victim here, but we're still going to make it right? Could they have done that?
Yeah, I mean, when I read the case, the standing was fine. I mean, it's crazy to think that the people that were wronged by this, especially people that lost significant incomes because of what the Biden administration didn't have standing. It reminds me of, I think there's the Hollingsworth case of 2013. That was about the Prop 8 in California, the gay marriage one. And they literally said in that holding that the entire state of California did not have standing to determine their own marriage laws. And so this is what happens when they don't want to take on the underlying issues. They say that standing doesn't exist. Now, of course, there are cases where standing is a legitimate issue. It's something you learn usually first, second year law school. But this wasn't that. So I couldn't understand why they did it. It seemed like, here's what I think. I think they're probably going to issue some rulings that are going to be very preferential to President Trump soon. And maybe out of some sense of compromise, they went ahead and gave this to Biden. I know Roberts tries to be as even-handed and tries to, protect the court, but this is just a dumb ruling. I mean, I talked to some of my buddies that what do they think about this, that are attorneys, and they were scratching their heads. It just seemed like they didn't want to restrict the Biden administration from dealing with big tech companies. And my biggest fear is that you're doing that a couple months out from an election. We all saw what happened 4 years ago with the Hunter Biden laptop. And I just worry you're going to have some very negative information from about Biden, and it's not going to get out because of this very ruling.
Right, and Christopher, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Let's talk about the timing and when the case will come back up again, because that was their plan, with the right standing.
Find someone with good standing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So talk to me about the timing. When can this be remedied? And talk a little bit more about the impacts of this timeline.
Well, it's not going to be remedied this before the election. I mean, I guess next term, hypothetically, they could take it back. I mean, if you look at the history of, these cases where they rule on standing, I mean, maybe like 1 in 100, they'll take it back up. But if you look at the facts, I mean, the standing issue really couldn't have been more clear. I mean, the Biden administration used its coercive powers to force Facebook and other big tech companies to make sure that they silence people, and they only did it in one direction. They didn't silence any of the left-wing conspiracies, or that wasn't in the data. It was all in one direction. I have friends that just, made factual statements that are doctors, and they were kicked off of big tech platforms. They weren't saying anything crazy. And so the standing thing is, again, sometimes the court makes a ruling, and I think we assume that because the court said it, that it's a legitimate legal ruling. But in this case, I couldn't. So I would say if you look at the minority opinion by Gorsuch. He said this is one of the most important free speech cases of our lifetime, basically. And he made a perfect argument about why this never should have been kicked. But Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, they're sort of the moderates of the court. They'll go with the conservatives, 50% of the time. And for whatever reason, they didn't do this. But no, there's no way it can be remedied in time for the election. If it could be remedied, maybe next year. But if it's 6-3 now, I mean, the fact pattern would have to change dramatically for Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh to change their minds. And I just don't see it happening.
All right, so let's talk about that, kind of how the court's built up here. I want to get into another case in a second, but there's always been this talk about how the Supreme Court's out of control and how it's out of touch with the country, and it's veering off into this wild right-wing venue here. But it doesn't really seem like that's what these rulings are finding us. Even the leaked ruling, which I want to talk to you about in a second, out of Idaho, basically is a ruling that deals the Republicans in that state a pretty big blow. Now, I don't disagree with the ruling, pro-choice Alabama talk show host, all these other things, all these caveats I want to throw out there, but at the same time, I think the state should be able to make up their own rules when they come to this kind of stuff. And this court has found that, and then they swoop back in on the other side if the leaked thing is true and say something different. We'll come to that in a second. Another leaked ruling, this time, same exact issue, right before a presidential debate. Is that an accident, or is there someone in there doing this?
That's a really difficult question. I mean, I would say that these things just don't get hypothetically leaked right before a major debate. I don't know that somebody had to intentionally do that.
Yeah.
So I would say it had to be intentional. And as far as the underlying ruling, I think that will make it a lot more difficult for states that want to make that choice to have no abortions if the leaked thing is accurate. We don't know fully whether that's going to be the final ruling or not, but it does seem like it will. We can remember 2 years ago the Dobbs case was leaked a few months before. So I would expect that is the actual holding, and I would expect that was done intentionally, and I would say it was done intentionally prior to the debate to help Joe Biden.
So here's my only input on that take, both y'all's takes, is we always attribute these devious plans and these devious things. And I cannot tell you how many times, just from our seat, from where we are, how many things actually just happen by accident.
I agree.
I mean, it does. It's so easy to say this is devious.
You're saying don't assign deviousness when stupidity is at play. It's like when someone tells you they're taking 1 week off and it's actually another week, and they're not being devious, they're just making a mistake. And that's I can understand that. However, this is the second time that this particular issue has happened. And by the way,
and the timing, yes.
Well, it's also a little different this, and Christopher, you can respond to this. That also, it's like, oops, we put it up. Oh, Bloomberg Law grabbed it by accident. I mean, it seems like you go to one of your...
And it could be.
Right,
I'm not saying it couldn't be. I just want to point out there are so many historical significant events that have happened due to mistakes.
I know. Basically what I'm saying is they called up the Bloomberg people and said, hey, we're going to put this thing up real quick. Make sure you grab it when we do. Oh, whoops.
And that could have very well happened. We don't know. And that's the other point I would put out. We don't know. And we're not
Christopher, do you want to weigh in on that a little back and forth?
I think in general, I agree with her point. I think a lot of times we attribute some devious plot to just basic government incompetence. The only caveat is that we're not dealing with a municipal court or, so this is the Supreme Court. I mean, these people they're very, very bright. They're one of the few institutions that has very few leaks. I mean, the fact that there's been one serious leak in 2 years, I mean, there's leaks every day in Congress. So for that level of, that kind of individual to allow this stuff out, I don't know that could just be accidental, because I think the people that are working with the Supreme Court, whether it's the clerks or just the staff, they're actually the most intelligent people in government, and I know that's probably a low bar. So it seems like maybe in this instance I would probably assume it's more devious, but your general point is true. I think 9 times out of 10 we think there's some plot, but really it's just people are incompetent, and it ends up looking a certain way because of coincidence.
Yeah, a clerk on the Supreme Court could be off somewhere making hundreds of thousands of dollars somewhere doing private sector work. This is not an idiot.
Right.
So they're not.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
I agree with all of that, and I think it's all right. Real quick on the Trump immunity thing, sticking on the Supreme Court. You're a lawyer. That's your fault. You have to deal with these issues. So on the Supreme Court immunity issue, are they holding this for a reason? Is there a reason why they haven't released this one? Is there a reason why they want to do that one last, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, normally the most contentious ones they release at the end of the year. That's not abnormal. I mean, you can go back, 10, 20 years. It's usually the most contentious cases are the last ones because what the court wants to do is release this stuff and get out of town so they don't have to deal with the controversy of it. But I would assume that case is going to be more of a split. They're not going to give the president complete immunity, obviously. They're going to give some sort of qualified immunity, which means the Jan 6 case in D.C. is going to go back to district court. It'll never be heard before they actually before the election. And I think that will get a lot of media attention. But no, I don't think there's anything unusual about them waiting on this because it's going to be probably the most important ruling of this term.
There we go. Chris Furry, thank you very much. Radio talk show host on the Ump in Huntsville. You can hear his show 12 until 3 every single day, Monday through Friday. The Daily Controversy is a great show. Check it out. You should do that today. Go do it today, right now. But for the rest of us, we continue on. Mecca's leaving too. Show should get a lot better. Stay tuned. It's Alabama Politics This Week.
Want fun, safe, intelligent fitness programming? Want to build muscular strength, cardiovascular endurance, drastically improve range of motion and mobility, and learn proper nutrition to fuel your life with energy and emotional health? Well, come find out why Iron Tribe Fitness is ranked one of the top 5 fitness programs in America. Come find out why personal training and intentionally working on your current movement patterns individually is not only important, it's just another core value that separates Iron Tribe Fitness from other fitness facilities.
To learn how to get your 2-week free pass, go to irontribefitness.com.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for University Kia. This is my son Grant. He's a busy guy. Chess, piano, basketball, wrestling, baseball, you name it. There's probably some stuff that I missed that my wife will be mad about, but here's the thing. It's important to have reliable transportation. And my friends at University Kia, they take great care of me. I've been driving Sportages my entire life. My wife drives a Telluride now, and it is the perfect vehicle for the busy family. Folks, University Kia, let them take care of you like they've taken care of my family. That's University Kia. Learn more at universitykia.com.
Tom Grant and Dale Jackson sent you.
You work hard to earn little escapes because doing your best means being your best. So let us help you discover your best at Premier Dental Spa. With our unique blend of cosmetic, dental, and spa-like aesthetic services, you'll leave feeling relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. Make sure the best you is here to stay and book your appointment online today at premierdentalspa.com.
Welcome back to Alabama Politics This Week. I am Dale Jackson. Thank you very much for being here. Before we jump into the parting shot about gambling at the beach, there's a lot to discuss. So let me tell you this. Go to the 7 things you should be talking about today at yellowhammernews.com. I write those up every single morning, Monday through Friday, and they can be delivered directly to your email inbox right there at yellowhammernews.com. You can also find my videos, Yellowhammer Now videos, and a bunch of other stuff there every single day, yellowhammernews.com. Right now, though, let's go ahead and get let's get to the parting shot. There we go. Our parting shot this week is directed at all the people that are still pushing this gambling idea. And now you have mayors on the beach saying, whoa, stop what you're doing, because the way you're talking about this implies that you're trying to open up the door to all sorts of different things. And they don't want gambling in Orange Beach. They don't want gambling in Baldwin County. And you're starting to see more of this. And we've already seen some of it from lawmakers saying, hey, gambling's fine, but don't put it in my area, and don't put it in my area, and don't put it in my area. And you're starting to see different mayors talk about how this will open up the door for other votes down the line. So now they're worried about the cascading impact of potential situations where they change the law to where gambling becomes legal in different places and how it will become legal in more places after that. So I think we continue to see people chipping away at what they've called a 1-vote margin, but that's actually not a 1-vote margin. There's a lot more to it than that. And I think you're seeing a bigger issue here. Also, the Senate, the Alabama State Senate, has been called more conservative than the House by some members, and they seem to be thinking that that's going to lead to less support for gambling in the future. So this conversation never stops. It just continues, and it will continue probably until there is some form of legalized gambling. But it doesn't look like it's really right on the horizon like a lot of people are making it out to be, because they're worried about it showing up at the beach, and they're worried about it in Baldwin County and other places like that. You've already heard from some of the people in North Alabama saying if it comes here, we'll kill it. So there's all these different things at play here. They're not as close as people are making it out to be, and it seems like it's getting further and further away every single time they talk about it. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for watching Alabama Politics this week and listening to it all over the great state of Alabama. And we'll be back next week.